Welcome to Counsel and Community.
Hello there. Welcome to Counsel and Community, where legal insight meets real-life impact. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, here with Sarah Green and Brett Nelson of the Nelson Law Group team to share practical guidance on navigating legal challenges while offering tips for personal growth and financial well-being. We're excited you're here, and I'm excited you guys are here. Thank you so much, Brett and Sarah. Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm great. Today we're going to talk about some common custody mistakes, which is an interesting topic. Brett, I'll start with you. What are the most common mistakes that you see parents make when it comes to custody orders and decrees?
That's an easy question to answer. The most common mistake is people enter into an agreement that's not specific enough because they think that they will figure it out and be able to agree in the future. The best court orders ending a relationship or setting the parameters around a parent-child relationship is the one that's crystal clear and defines specific parameters upon which the parties know when they will have the child and what the responsibilities are with respect to the child when it's in or out of their possession. The more clear the order, the more likely you're going to be able to put it in a drawer and never read it again and have agreements with your former spouse or the other parent without regards to what the terms were that were placed in the order or agreed to.
Why is it so important for a decree to spell out custody time clearly? What happens if it doesn't?
It leads to litigation and disputes between the parents, which derails the co-parenting relationship, which ultimately leads to distress on the child with emotional and sometimes some mental health concerns being caused to the child. I mean, it's seeing the two people that you love the most warring over you is a very difficult position to be in for a child. The child feels like he or she is having to make choices on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. Lie to one parent to keep the other one happy. Omit, not having the ability where they can freely share their happiness or sadness with both parents equally. It's very disturbing and troubling circumstance for the parents to put their child in.
I mean, I can't imagine. I'd say most parents don't intentionally put kids in that position. They don't mean to do it necessarily. Is it just that the emotion of the divorce, of the feelings towards the soon-to-be ex-spouse or ex-spouse is just that strong that it kind of clouds them? Or what do you see it as the reason? The question is kind of open to anyone.
Yeah, it's, I think the most common situation that I see is a parent has perceived some type of trauma or feels like the other parent doesn't quite parent the way they should. And that perception gets wrapped up into, excuses that the other parent shouldn't be involved in the child and doesn't do it as well. And just because a parent has a different parenting style doesn't mean that either style is right. Quite frankly, I believe that, the different parenting styles are actually a benefit for a child. They get to see the pros and cons of each approach. We're all different. Every human being is different, and how they see the world varies. And that perspective, I think, goes into the parenting decisions you make. And I think children benefit from that variety. Now, obviously, safety, if there are legitimate safety concerns, then, there are ways for parents to protect children. But I really believe that the safety concerns are far and few between, and it's really just perspectives that don't match, resulting in conflict.
Do you have an example from your career of how misunderstanding a decree has caused problems later on?
Yes. The one that comes to mind is parents want to agree to an every other weekend possession schedule. And, the order isn't clear on which weekend was the first weekend that they're going to alternate from. And somebody, you forget over time, whose weekend is whose, or they swap weekends, and so the schedule gets mixed up, or there's a holiday provision that trumps the normal week, every other week possession schedule. So does the schedule reset? you know all sorts of problems come about by that, and that's why Texas defines it first, third, and fifth weekends of the month. And I still have people insist on the every other weekend possession schedule because they feel it's more equitable, because there's 26 weekends in the year, and they don't want the fifth weekend to double up. The fifth and the first weekend, so the non-primary parent would have 2 weekends in a row. I mean, it's the reasons to do it every other weekend just aren't justified by the difficulties in drafting and the problems that arise from that simple task of trying to identify whose weekend it is.
Sarah, from the emotional side, how can parents keep their children from getting caught in the middle when custody disputes happen? Because, like I said, I don't think they mean to do it, but what kind of practical advice do you have?
I think parents need to be aware of how perceptive children are and how highly attuned they are to what's
That is
going
true.
on. So,
That is
and
very true.
they listen around corners and they are paying very close attention. And so even if you're not saying something outright, your body language or um, things you think you're talking on the back porch, privately at night or whatever, and the kids are overhearing. I think that is one thing. I often also will, unfortunately, see parents kind of quiz the kids about what was going on over at the other parent's house, trying to get information, get ammunition. That is a horrible position to put children in.
Yeah.
And I just came across this the other day, just saw somebody, it was a screenshot. They texted their kids, they were with their dad. And they're like, I miss you so much. I'm so sad without you, all of that, which seems loving, right? But what you're doing when you do that is you're making the kids feel guilty about having a good time with the other parent. And they're worrying about you and your emotional health. So I would suggest, instead of the "I miss you," I'm falling apart without you, and that kind of language, that we're doing something like, I hope you're having a great time, and I'll see you on Sunday or whenever it is, and I bet you're having fun. Those kinds of positive things where you're not making the children emotionally responsible for your own feelings are more helpful.
Yeah, you're not kidding. My 4-year-old, we realized recently we got to be a lot more careful because he does listen. Like if we're talking about grandma and grandpa, and he's like, "What about that?" And we're like, "Oh, whoa, no, 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 no." Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, they are so much more perceptive than we ever realize, especially
Yeah.
when we're kind of in our own little worlds.
Yeah, and when we're children are, and I think Brett's talked about this, children are half of mom and half of dad, right? They're half of these two people that are raising them. And when we are being negative towards the other parent, we're teaching the children to hate half of who they are.
Hmm.
And it's very, very conflicting. And we really need to be mindful about that in any kind of co-parenting situation. But it's not worth arguing over a 2 hour window, or if and hurting your children in the process. Sometimes it's better for your kids just to give in to an argument over a custody dispute.
Yeah, think of the kids. Just try to keep thinking of the kids. What other proactive steps can parents take, whether it be legally or emotionally, to avoid some of these custody pitfalls we've talked about today?
I think as a general rule, parents need to think about what's your goal? What's the end game here? And I always encourage my clients to think about the long term. And what you're really parenting for is to have a relationship with your children when they're an adult. When they're 18, they no longer are required to see you. What are you doing in their minority to ensure that they want to see you once they're 18? And a lot of times that involves the parent giving up, something that he or she wants to do with the children, to defer to what the other parent wants to do with the child, or equally important, that the child wants to do. As the kids get older, it's no longer mom or dad's time, it's all of y'all's time. It's the family unit's time that you're sharing. And as your kids get older, they're not going to want to spend time with mom and dad. They want to hang out with their friends, or they're going to be involved in activities that are very time consuming and that are important to them. And it's not that they don't love their parents, it's just that their priorities have changed. And how you as a parent handle that transition is important. And your kids are watching. And even if one parent is making it extremely difficult for the other parent, and unjustifiably so doing so, if the parent who's having the difficult time handles that properly, they're actually going to end up with bonus points from their kids as the kids age, because they're going to see how honorably and how kind they were to the other parent, even when they were it was not a just way to be treated. So you really have to think about what are your kids perceiving of you? Are you proud of, and are you demonstrating the personality and the choices that you would like them to make as they grow older? I like to say this, what would Jesus do? And if you measure your actions by that standard, and your intention is to fulfill that standard, then you're not going to have any problems. You may feel like you've lost on the short term, but you're really making an investment in the long term. And I would submit to you that is the most important investment you'll ever make in your entire life. And I can speak from personal reference. I mean, the relationship that I share with my adult children is 10 times the relationship that I had with them when they're younger. I work a lot as a lawyer, and I wasn't present as much as I'd like to be. I would have liked to have been, and I felt guilt associated with that for the longest period of time. But as I continue to enjoy the relationship I have with my kids as adults, I'm starting to learn that whatever I did must have been, there must have been something done right, because the relationship I share with them now is so fulfilling.
That's really cool. I really like that too, that you're planning for the future. It's a great point. You're setting the groundwork for how your relationship will be after those early days where you're just, where the kids are just obsessed with you, like that just changes. And yeah, I like that a lot. That's good advice for all of us parents out there. All right. Well, Sarah, I'd love to hear your mindful moment for today. Take it away.
Mindful moment. This is going to require some really honest self-reflection. But I would just challenge people to ask themselves if there is a behavior that they're choosing or something that they are doing that might be negatively impacting their child's relationship with their other parent, and just really reflect on that. And if so, take steps to change it. What do you need to do to change it and make it different?
All right. Well, remember, for more insights and exclusive resources tailored to navigate life's challenges, be sure to check out the Nelson Law Group app. It is specifically designed to support you through the divorce process with expert advice and community resources. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Leave us a review. We very much appreciate it. Brett, Sarah, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments. For more exclusive content, including helpful guides like our Divorce Care Guide, download our app today and get the support you need right at your fingertips.